eyes is made. She's like, Ya Rasulullah, what else would it be? So the Prophet says, Wallahi, this is a dua I make for my ummah in every salah. Let that sink in for a second. People don't even remember their parents in every salah. We don't remember. We forget. Your Prophet remembered you in every salah. To the extent, we're told in a hadith in Sahih Muslim, that's shocking really when you hear it for the first time. Hadith comes in Sahih Muslim. One night, the Prophet is crying all night long. So Allah sends Jibreel down. Jibreel comes and he says, Ya Rasulullah, ma yubakik. What makes you cry? Why are you crying this much? What did the Prophet say? Ummati, 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 ummati. My people, my people. What is going to happen to them when I'm no longer on the scene? There are no more prophets coming to pick up my ummah's slack. If my ummah is offbeat or off path, how are they going to make a U-turn? There are no more prophets. It's not like Bani Israel, kullama halaka nabiyyun khalafa nabiyyun. Every time a prophet leaves, there's another on the scene. My ummah, who's going to take care of them? So Jibreel goes back to Allah. And Allah responds, sends back a response, which is, inna la nasu'uka fi ummatik. We will not disappoint you when it comes to your ummah. You guys, our ulama, they say it's these tears of the Prophet ﷺ that echo through the vast stretches of time, that every time ummah is about to hit rock bottom, there's a revival. If you know a little bit of your Islamic history, ummah was entirely decimated when the Mongol invasion occurred. Crusaders, they did a number on us, but then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a revival and a comeback through Salahuddin. 40 years after Salahuddin or less, there's a threat brewing in the east, which is of course the Mongolian invasion. They will start the trail of destruction from Bukhara, the city of Imam Bukhari himself. Bukhara will fall. And then after Bukhara, a few years later, Hulagu Khan will lay siege to the seat of the Islamic world, Baghdad. Baghdad will be sacked. Khalifa will be rolled up in a carpet and trampled with horses. And then they proceed to take on Damascus. Aleppo falls. One major city after another gone. If you were to look at the map of the Islamic world at that time, there's fire and destruction everywhere. Do you know the last city or major stronghold left? Egypt. Very good. All the Egyptians are like right here. MashaAllah. Egypt. Khalas. And at that moment, the du'as, the tears activate. La yazalu ta'ifatun min ummati dhahirina ala al-haq. This is the dua of the Prophet. There will always be a group of my ummah who will remain upon the straight path, and they will be dominant, and their enemies will not be able to hurt them. Tears activate, du'as activate. Men like Al-Izz ibn Abd salam, they work with the masses, preach and teach. And then Saifuddin al-Qutuz and Baybaras, they get the Muslim masses ready. Mongols wrote a letter to the Muslims. They said, you know what we have done in other cities. And if you do not surrender now and start paying tribute, we will come and put every men, women, and children to sword. So you compromise now, but if you don't, and we roll in, it'll be exactly what happened in Baghdad. There was a lot of internal pressure upon Saifuddin Qutuz to compromise. He did not. In the famous battle of Ain Jalut, Allah blessed us to give Mongols their first decisive defeat. It's the du'as of the Prophet ﷺ, and this was the end of the Mongolian expansion into the Muslim world. The du'as of the Prophet ﷺ, that every time we're about to hit rock bottom, there's a revival. And then a cousin race of the Mongols are the Ottomans, and now Ottomans will take Muslims into another era of domination. But in 1922, we hit rock bottom again. For the first time, Islamic Khilafah expired, abolished. Adhan would be called in Turkish now. The Turkish alphabet changed, as you guys know. All of those changes have occurred. We hit rock bottom like before, like never before. But the du'as are there. And we're seeing a wave of revival sweeping through the ummah. The son of as some of the scholars say, the son of Islam will now rise from the west, from these western lands perhaps. And you and I have a role to play. Because your Prophet shed tears for this ummah. Once Anas radiallahu anh, my another story for you. Once Anas radiallahu anh said to the Prophet sallallahu Ya Rasulullah, Ishfa'li, make shafa'ah for me on the Day of Judgment. The Prophet said, Ana fa'il, I'll do that for you. Because Anas, he served the Prophet as a personal assistant for years. Khadimu Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So now Anas, see, this is what you appreciate about the companions. They're not, when it comes to their hereafter, they go the extra mile. For us, We go ham, as I say, we go extra mile when it comes to dunya, making sure the college application is like, mashallah, amazing. But when it comes to the work of the deen, it's like mid, like leaves much to be desired. Anas radiallahu anhu, the Prophet is like, Ana fired, I will intercede for you. Anas says, Ya Rasulullah, yeah, but where am I going to find you on the day of judgment? I just need a little more assurance. The Prophet said, find me by the mizan. He says, Ya Rasulullah, what if I don't find you there? He says, find me by the sirat. He said, what if I don't find you there? Then find me by the hawd. Okay, now if you know what these three terms are, sirat, mizan. Let's start with mizan. Mizan is easy, right? What is mizan? Scales, where your deeds are going to be weighed. And okay, so keep that one scene in mind, mizan. Sirat is a bridge over hellfire that everybody has to cross. And number 3 is the hawd, the pond of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our scholars say, or they ask, why those 3 spots? You know why those 3 spots? Because your anxiety will be at the highest at those 3 spots. And your Prophet will be there for you. At the sirat, you're shuddering in your boots. It's dark, thinner than a sword. And depending upon your deeds, you'll be given a light that might flicker in and out. And it's a bridge over hell. It's entrance to hell itself. And your Prophet will cheer you on. And then, as your deeds are being weighed, fariqun fil jannah or fariqun fil sa'ir. Your fate literally hangs in the balance. It's either Jannah or Jahannam. Your Prophet will be there for you. And then, when you're thirsty like never before, your Prophet will personally give you a drink from his hawd, and he will recognize you by the marks of wudu that you make. So if you're cutting corners when it comes to your wudu, just remember, that's your entry to his pond. That's the ticket to his pond. And a Prophet will personally serve you. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Looking out for the Ummah. Thinking for the Ummah. Hadith comes in Bukhari and Muslim. Our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ دَعْوَةٌ مُسْتَجَابَةٌ يَدْعُو بِهَا. Every Prophet is given one dua that is guaranteed to be answered by Allah. In other narrations, it is suggested that other prophets have used up their dua in the process or in the duration of their mission, because things got tough on the ground. Nuh alayhi salam is like, what is the dua of Nuh alayhi salam? رَبِّ لَا تَذَرْ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ دَيَّارًا إِنَّكَ إِن تَذَرْهُمْ يُضِلُّوا عِبَادَكَ. Nuh alayhi salam uses dua. What about his dua? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He, by the way, knew that his family will go through a calamity after him. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we know the situation was so bad in Medina. Aisha radiallahu anha once, she's thinking about, so the Prophet has passed away now, and Aisha is thinking about the days of the Prophet. And once she served food to one of her students, Masruq, and as she served him dinner, she started crying. Aisha radiallahu anha. So they're like, Ya Ummah, like, is everything okay? She says, I'm crying because I'm remembering the days I'm remembering the condition in which the Prophet left this world. Wallahi, he didn't have 2 full meals in a row. He never ate 2 full meals in a day, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anas says, the Prophet never saw soft bread till he left this world. This is your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anas says, the Prophet saw like shatun saminun, like juicy meat. Our Prophet never saw that. Umar radiallahu anh says, once I saw the Prophet all day long, twisting with hunger, squirming with hunger. He couldn't find one quality day to fix his hunger. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he could have used that dua to fix his financial affairs. Could have taken care of his family. لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ دَعْوَةٌ مُسْتَجَابَةٌ. Every prophet is given one dua that's guaranteed to be accepted. He says, as for me, أَخْتَبِئُ دَعْوَتِي شَفَاعَةً لِأُمَّتِي فِي الْآخِرَةِ. As for me, I'm saving my dua to intercede for my ummah on the day of judgment. وفي رواية الترمذي, in Tirmidhi narration says, شفاعة أهل الكبائر. I'm saving this dua to intercede for the major sinners of my ummah. This is the love for sinners. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة. This is your Prophet for you. There's a narration I'll share with you that will absolutely shock you, because it did shock me when I read this. Hadith comes in Al-Hakim. Our Prophet ﷺ says, on the day of judgment, prophets are given a royal seating. لِلْأَنْبِيَاءِ مَنَابِرُ نُورٍ. And this royal seating will be inside paradise. And the Prophet ﷺ says, if you were to look inside paradise at that royal seating, you would see that prophets have taken their seats. And he says, وَيَبْقَى, and he says, وَيَبْقَى مَجْلِسِي, he says, my seat will be empty though. Why? He says, because I will refuse to enter Jannah, and he will still continue to stand under the burning sun of the day of judgment, because he will say, Akhafu, he will be afraid that if he enters Jannah now, what will happen to his ummah behind him? So he will refuse to enter paradise, fighting for his ummah, putting up a good word for his ummah, and keep interceding until Allah will say to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Muhammad, Ma turidu an asna'a bi ummatik. What do you want me to do with your ummah? He says, Ajjil hisabam. Ya Allah, hurry up their accounting. Ya Allah, let me intercede. Until he will do rounds and waves upon waves of intercessions, and the angel of hell, the warden of hell, he will see the Prophet interceding for so many people that the warden of hell will turn to the Prophet and he'll say, Ya Muhammad, ma tarakta fi nar min niqmatin. You didn't leave much behind in hellfire. Hellfire is looking a little empty right now because of the amount of intercession your Prophet will do for you. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is a love and concern for his ummah. You know how many hadith begin with وَلَوْلَا أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَىٰ أُمَّتِي. Had it not been that this would be difficult for my ummah, I would ask them to do this. You know the famous hadith? Had it not been difficult for my ummah, I would ask them to do miswak with every prayer. But I know it would be hard, so he didn't come in. وَلَوْلَا أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَىٰ أُمَّتِي. Had it not been difficult for my ummah, I would ask them to delay Isha prayer all the way till 1/2 of the night. وَفِي رِوَايَةٍ 1/3 of the night. But it'd be too hard for them. And then, once our Prophet ﷺ is leading the prayer, and what happens, there's a child crying in the back. So the Prophet ﷺ, after the prayer, he turns to the companions, he says, إِنِّي دَخَلْتُ فِي الصَّلَاةِ. I started my prayer, وَأَرَدْتُ أَنْ أَطُولَهَا or أُطِيلَهَا. And I wanted to make my prayer long. فَسَمِعْتُ بُكَاءَ الصَّبِي. Then I heard the crying of that child. فَتَجَوَّزْتُ فِي صَلَاتِي. And I shortened my prayer. Why? لِمُشَقَّةٍ. Because of the hardship it would cause the mother. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ajib. For the hardship it would cause the mother, shorten the prayer. Aisha radiallahu anha says in a shocking hadith in Bukhari, she says, إِن كَانَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ لَا يَدَعُ مِنْ أَعْمَالٍ هُوَ يُحِبُّهَا. Our Prophet ﷺ would intentionally not do certain good deeds he loved doing. Why? For the fear it might become mandatory upon his ummah. He would be afraid if he kept doing it and others kept joining him, perhaps this will become something that is wajib upon the ummah, and that would set the bar too high for the ummah, and he didn't want things hard for his ummah. So he intentionally would let go of certain good deeds so that the ummah doesn't have to go through too many expectations. And my dear brothers and sisters, when this is the attitude of our Prophet, this is where it hurts when you hear somebody, it's just a sunnah, bro. You heard those people? Stop bothering me, it's just a sunnah. Allah hawla wa la quwwata. Sunnah of who? Sunnatu rahmatil lil alameen. Shaykh Yasir Qadi was sharing with us, once he was in a conference. He was talking to one of these people who are called the Quraniyuns. You guys know Quraniyuns? They're like, brother, give me Quran only, that's it. I want to deal with no hadith. So they were talking about a religious matter. And Shaykh Yasir Qadi, as evidence, he quoted a hadith. The person on the other side says, oh, you don't have to quote me his opinion. I don't know if this hits you. What does he say? You don't have to quote me his opinion. Whose opinion? You know, تَكَادُ السَّمَاوَاتُ يَتَفَطَّرْنَ. Heavens are ready to split. Earth is ready to shake on a statement like that. It's Allah's hilm that a lightning strike didn't come down, honestly. We have Muslims running liquor stores in Milwaukee. Of course, you guys are religious, mashallah. None of those problems happen here, right? Mashallah. But you know, those Muslims over there, they're running liquor stores. And like, you go up to them, they're like, imagine the Prophet was alive? Our Prophet had a request for you and I, with all that he has done. He used to say, La tusawwiduni yawm al-qiyamah. Don't embarrass me on the day of judgment. I'm like, can there be a greater embarrassment than 42 liquor stores south side of Chicago, all Muslim owned? or majority Muslim. What happened? And then when we let go of the liquor stores, we start we open vape shops. Then we're like, oh, vape shops is too bad. Let me just open the hookah bars. I'm like, are we that out of ideas? It's like one harm after another. I was like, you think the Prophet would be proud? Oh, brother, I have kids to pay, I have bills to pay, kids to feed. I'm like, Allah is a provider, not your liquor store, not the economy, not Uncle Sam. لا تسودوني يوم القيامة. Don't embarrass me on the day of judgment. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So you guys, if this is the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam who went above and beyond for his ummah, then it behooves us, first and foremost, to take the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam a bit more seriously. That's like the starting point. Secondly, seed of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam seriously. And I always tell young people, I'm like, look, how much of the life of the Prophet do you really know? Obviously I'm from Milwaukee, so we got Milwaukee Bucks. If I ask the kids in Milwaukee, I'm like, Giannis, shirt number, lightning speed, immediately, قبل أن يرتد إليك طرفك. Before the eye can blink, the answer is available. 34. I'm like, how many children the Prophet had? Oh, was it 3? I forgot what my Quran and Islamic studies teacher told me to say here. And their kids are blanking out. I'm like, Sunnah, Sirah. You reciprocate your love right there. Third, my dear brothers and sisters, if you want to bring love, because love is an empty claim, just proof of love is sacrificing. And what I mean by sacrifice here is us sacrificing our personality, our temperament to imitate the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a famous hadith that comes in Tirmidhi and others, he said, "Inna min ahabbikum ilayya wa aqrabikum minni majlisan yawm al-qiyamah ahasinukum akhlaqa." The most beloved of y'all to me and closest of y'all to me on the day of judgment are who? Those with the most amazing character, the most amazing manners. And then he goes on to say, if we, as if we needed more motivation, he says, a person because of their good manners, la yudriku darajata sa'imil qa'im, will reach the reward of someone who prays all night and fasts all day. Keep this in mind. Now, brother, or my dear sister, you have anger issues, all right? Now, a lot of times you talk to people with anger issues and they take it out on their children or their wife. And you're like, brother, Habibi, you gotta, la taghdab. The Prophet said, yeah, but that's just who I am. My screw is a little loose, they say. Not much I can do. I'm like, no. This is where you sacrifice and demonstrate love to come to the prophetic middle. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What is love if we're not willing to sacrifice certain temperaments for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? One of the qualities of the Prophet was hilm. Hilm is when you have nerves of steel. You're not provoked easily. You're not driven up the wall easily. People can't press your buttons too easily. But subhanAllah, I remember in our masjid, I think during Taraweeh, a kid was like playing with a water bottle in the back. One of the uncles, may Allah have blessing and mercy on them, I think he was bubbling with anger in the middle of his prayer. As soon as the prayer over, كَأَنَّهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. That kid got the yelling that he got that day, I think he got emotionally scarred for life. And I'm like, understandably, I get annoyed too. I mean, it is what it is. We have to deal with it. But I'm like, not in this way though. Just because you're angry doesn't mean you have to let your anger hijack your behavior. Yeah, we all experience anger, but there's between you and expressing that anger is a choice. That choice has to be exercised in light of the prophetic guidance. Our Prophet had hilm. Narration comes in Bukhari. A Bedouin, you guys know Bedouins in the Seerah. If you ever want to see drama in Seerah, just look at what the Bedouins do, right? A Bedouin walks into the gathering of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anas is describing the scene to us. He says this Bedouin essentially sneaks up on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet has this rida, some sort of a shawl on him. And what he does is this: he takes his shawl, as the Prophet is looking that way, he comes from behind, yanks the shawl so hard it leaves a burn on the shoulder of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet almost falls back. If you were in that situation, what will be your reaction? Someone's going to the hospital, right? Right? Ambulance is going to be called. Narration says, Anas says the Prophet got his balance back, turned around, and managed to squeeze out a smile. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And then he turns to the Bedouin for what his need is. You know what the Bedouin says? His rudeness doesn't go down because the Prophet is nice to him. That's the shocking part. He's like, "A'tini min malillahi alladhi a'tak." Give me from the wealth God gave you. It's not like as if he's like, you're not doing me any favors. Give me the money God gave you. What you waiting for? Astaghfirullah. And then the Prophet told Anas, go give him some money. Amazing. And I'm asking myself, and I'm asking you, my dear brothers and sisters, what is love if it doesn't translate into behavioral change? Then we don't become a little bit more prophetic, a little bit more composed in the face of anger, other pressing our buttons. Like we have brothers, mashallah, and sisters who are icons of courtesy in public, symbols of tyranny in private. So when the car shows up on the driveway, you know, there's a cloud of terror settles over the house because they know martial law is about to begin. Why? Why are our families so tense? Why can't teenagers and their fathers talk to each other? Why is there so much bad blood? That needs to be thought, needs to be cut through. The deafening silence. I've sat in living rooms with a Desi father and a Desi kids. So much tension, you can almost taste it. And like a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. One wrong comment, boof. That's the kind of situation we're dealing with. So we're desperately in need of the seerah of the Prophet and the sunnah of the Prophet and his hadi, his samt, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us more prophetic in our behavior, that He allows us to align our personality under the shade of the prophetic guidance, that we love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam not just through words but through actions, that we dedicate the time to listen to the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I leave you with 3 options for the seerah. You can choose whichever one you like, depending upon the time you have. Option number 1, the long option, for advanced students of knowledge. Sheikh Yasir Qadi has a 104 episode seerah. Roughly each is an hour long. If you got a long commute, I hear the Boston traffic sucks, right? All right, then. You ever heard of the Traffic University? Yeah, or the Walking College, whatever. Anyway, join one of the Traffic University and start listening. That's the first option. It's available for free on YouTube. Second option, Ustad Abdurrahman Murphy has a 66 episode podcast called The Messenger, especially for young adults and professionals, college students, high schoolers. Start there. It's funny, it's engaging, it's deep. If that's still too much for you, here's a third option, 30 episodes. Mufti Kamani's The Chosen One. Look that up. Please listen to that. If that's not working for you, you're a reader, here's an option, 300-page book called When the Moon Split. If you are more ambitious, then you have the option of reading Sheikh Yasir Qadi's seerah that just came out. It's a tome. It's like a brick. It's a big book. So if you're like a voracious reader, look into that. But wherever you can, connect with the seerah, because I'll end on this. Your religiosity, you will never savor and appreciate its sweetness until you love Allah's Messenger. There's a hadith about this, where the Prophet said, "Thalathun man kunna wujida fihi halawat al-iman." You want to experience the sweetness of iman? One of 3 things have to occur. What's the first on the list? أن يحب الله ورسوله أحب إليه مما سواه. To love Allah and His Messenger like no one else. So until you experience that love, you'll be a cultural Muslim. You'll be a passport Muslim. You're a born Muslim. But if you want that faith to become your identity, love has to be there. And that requires investment. And Anas radiallahu anhu, and this is my final thing for you guys today. Anas radiallahu anhu said, once another Bedouin walked into the gathering of the Prophet. He's like, Ya Rasulullah, mata sa'atu qa'ima. When is the day of judgment? The Prophet, obviously that's a wrong question to ask because no one really knows. So the Prophet reframed the question. He says, وَمَاذَا أَعْدَدْتَ لَهَا? What have you prepared for it? That's what you should really be worried about. The man says, "Ma a'dattu shay'an illa inni uhibbu Allah wa rasulah." Ya Rasulullah, not much I've been able to prepare, but I know that I love Allah and His Messenger deeply. So the Prophet said, "Innaka ma'a man ahbabta." You will be with those that you love. Anas says, commenting on this, he says, I don't remember feeling happy the way I felt happy that day. Why? He says, because I know my actions are not at the level of Abu Bakr and Umar. I can't compete with those guys. Different league. But this statement of the Prophet ﷺ that you'll be with those you love gives me hope that if my actions won't get me into their league, my love surely will. The love will patch the gaps in your actions. Do you guys understand? So you can get through love, but you can't get through raw deeds. So then that love has to be something. It needs to be learned. It needs to be invested in. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to sacrifice for it and to learn it and to dedicate time for it. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Salamun ala al-mursalin. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Zero.